All right, and we're live. It is On the Stick After Dark. My name is Joe Drilling, and I am here with my MiSTer, a tiny computer for playing old video games. And also with me is Kurt Adam.
Howdy.
And a slightly under the weather, Eric Stephen Allen.
Yeah, I like that.
He even coughed into the mic just to make a point.
Hi.
So at the risk of making you repeat something that you've already made a video for, and I'm going to ask you to expand on your opening statement and say the MiSTer is what?
So, the MiSTer...
It's his shorthand for Joe's favorite band.
Yes. MiSTer.
MiSTer.
Yes.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, I get the impression... Lots of people have been talking about it, including you, but I haven't really looked that closely at it. But essentially, a like FPGA-based thing to play various old things, old consoles, emulate old consoles, and play games on them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Am I oversimplifying? Okay.
No, not really. That's pretty accurate. So,
and is this a device or is this a thing that you said something about building it?
So yeah,
is it a kit?
Yeah, it's a kit. Pretty much. It's So, we're gonna check out the Ms. Pac-Man speed hack that someone did for this.
So Rhino Narf 14 and Camaristico say hello.
Howdy.
Hello to you. So what things do you have that you have been doing with this?
So,
or what motivated you to do this versus you already have many old systems and ways to play emulated things and so on? So why this?
So this is...
Although this looks like an arcade game, so that sort of answers that question.
This is an arcade game. And this one I could turn it sideways if I wanted to. Oh wait, there we go. I could play if I had it connected to a monitor. Well, actually, it would be hard to stream with it this way, but I could play it in its correct aspect ratio. But
yeah.
So. And also, the weird thing about this is that when you're using HDMI, sometimes you don't get audio on some of the cores. So unfortunately, the Ms. Pac-Man arcade board is one such core, so you're not going to hear anything while I'm playing this game. But then there's no risk of the levels not being right. So to anybody who's considering this, if you are putting it directly... sorry, it's not just HDMI. It's HDMI through my capture card, I should specify. Like, just playing this game normally into my TV, the sound works fine.
Oh, okay.
But some cores, they don't work with they don't play nice with capture cards. Apparently, the best remedy to that is to use there's a board that you can get as an accessory for this that will make it output an analog signal, a 240p analog signal, and then you can use like an open source scan converter to up-res it that way. The problem with that for me is that I don't have an open source scan converter. I have a FrameMeister, and the FrameMeister would add just as much, if not more, lag as just using the HDMI direct from the device. But the OSSC is basically lag-free because of the way it works, which is different than... The FrameMeister is a scaler, the OSSC is a line doubler. So...
right.
It doesn't... It would... I'd have to pay like $200 to get another device that does the same thing kind of as a device I already own, which I paid like $300 for, and I'm just not really feeling that right this moment. But that would correct the sound issue for capture purposes. But if you play it on a TV without a capture card, it works fine. So yeah, it's a tiny computer with a FPGA on it. That's run by a Cyclone i7 something FPGA, Cyclone 5 i7 or i9 processor, which is more powerful than what's in the Super NT, for example.
Right.
So this thing, the reason that I went for this thing, Kurt, to answer your question from a couple minutes ago, is because, as you said, I mean, this is Pac-Man, arcade Ms. Pac-Man. So that was, that's a thing. But also there's a ton of old computer formats that this thing supports.
So like Commodore 64 and
Commodore 64,
Amiga,
Amstrad, Amiga, ZX Spectrum, Apple
so
II.
on. Okay. Can you play? You can play the original Castle Wolfenstein with the super distorted voice samples.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they were streaming a bunch of Amiga stuff on Giant Bomb UPF like last week or
nice
or whatever.
Oh, they made a.
You can play Star Raiders.
You'll never believe that Jeff Gerstmann was interested in a thing
yeah.
to play a bunch of weird old.
What?
Yeah, weird. So the big thing, the big draw with this thing over emulate, because of course people are like, why don't you just emulate? So getting a lot of those old computers to work even via emulation is like I tried to get a ZX Spectrum emulator working, and I was just, an Amiga emulator, and I was just like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. So this was actually easier for me.
Yeah, I don't know how much that whole thing is complicated by, European versus not, and
well, the emulator
critical mass of people that want to do it versus like there's a ton of people that want to see Nintendo or Super Nintendo things because they have nostalgia for them or whatever.
Right. Well, the emulator
not that there aren't people that would want to see Amiga games, but I bet the critical mass is a lot smaller.
Right. The thing with Amiga games though is or the Amiga emulator or PC emulators in general is that there's usually a lot more settings on those things, so it's like when you're going into
it's a lot more variability than a fixed
it's like
platform.
Which version of the thing are you trying to emulate?
Right.
and then it just turns into like
and then that affects which pieces of software you can emulate, which makes it very if you don't know
right
in it being in that direction.
Sorry, your audio just got really weird, Eric. I don't know.
Yeah, for me as well.
Yeah, my internet's been kind of in and out tonight, so.
Oh, okay. So if we
Rhino Nar 14 asks if you liked the Pac-Man cartoon from the 80s. I never saw it.
I liked it when I was a kid. I think if I watched it now, I probably wouldn't like it very much.
It's not good.
Yeah. It's one of those Hanna-Barbera cartoons from the 80s that were really kind of done like extremely on the cheap.
Yeah.
I just ran right into a ghost.
Yeah. It sounds like this may replace like the Raspberry Pi as sort of a retro game.
Yeah.
Choice because it can
more Swiss Army knifey kind of.
And it's a little more powerful than a Raspberry Pi too.
Right. The big draw is, as far as I'm concerned, because you guys know that I'm like kind of a stickler about accuracy and stuff like that.
Sure.
Is that it depending on the quality of the core, of course, there's a number of things that can happen here, but the big one was the what was it? The Sharp 68 or the Yamaha 68,000 processor. You know what I'm talking about, Kurt? You're an old computer guy.
Yeah, the MC 68,000. Yeah,
right.
That
has been cycle accurate reproduced with this FPGA. So anything that uses that as sort of the core of it, no pun intended,
is
really spot on. Yeah, so
that's nice.
Let's try a computer. Let's see what we get if we bust out one of these PCs. So yeah, here's the list of cores. And the really cool thing is that Smoke Monster, shout outs to Smoke Monster, wrote a script, or worked on a script and implemented it that you can run a script, and so this thing has an Ethernet port. So you connect it to Ethernet and you run this script, and it will automatically go to the Git page for the MiSTer project, and it will check to see if you have the most recent versions of all the cores, and if you don't, it will automatically update them.
Nice.
So you don't have to, because before that, when I first got this thing, every time the cores got an update, I would have to take the card out, put it in an adapter, put it in my computer, find the new edition of the core from the GitHub page, download it, put it on the card, and then put it, and do all that stuff. And now you can just run this script and it'll do it. So we've got
it'll just work. That's nice.
We've got the Altair 8800, which is a really, really old computer. Amstrad, Apple II, Atari 800, BBC Micro, C64, Mac Plus. Mini Mig is an Amiga basically MSX1, but I don't think there's MSX2 support yet. I don't believe. The PDP-1, which is, I mean, the only reason you'd use that is to play Space War, I think. The Commodore PET 2001, the Sharp MZ, the TI-99, VIC-20, X68000. X68000 is a little wonky because that's like a pretty intense piece of hardware. ZX Spectrum, ZX81. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of these. So I don't know. Let's give the Amiga a run. So the way that this should work, because some folks in the community have really optimized it. So when you boot up this core, it should load up a hard drive image that just has all the games on it. So, you know, yeah, here we go, tiny launcher. So with this, left, down, up, button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4. We can do custom. Somebody did some custom. So this is all community backed. So I use the Gaussian Sharp 07 filter, which is basically like the sharpest pixels jammed directly into my eyeballs. And then, yeah, this just loads up this tiny launcher, so you can just go and see, like, here's all the stuff. It's right here, and you just go to games, and it gives you a whole list of, like, oh, okay, now we've got audio working, so, and turn that way down. So, like, I think this thing pretty much has every Amiga game, or very close to it. I mean, everyone would be hard, I guess, but, like, man, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And this, before, you would have to sort of run it like an Amiga, like you would just load up the shell, and then, but somebody in the community wrote a script that whatever games you have, it just loads up this hard drive image and you just go. So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Nice.
Which is really, really great in terms of ease of use for someone like me. So, I mean, we just, you know.
Joe, do you know, does this thing do GBA stuff?
It does Game Boy and Game Boy Color. I don't think there's a GBA core yet.
Okay.
But
it does
know.
do Super Nintendo and Genesis stuff, so theoretically it probably is possible.
It does Super Nintendo and Genesis, and a dude named Furtek, who also you might know because he created the TV Out mod for the Virtual Boy. Like, the Parrish is doing the Virtual Boy video series now. That mod was made by Furtek. He's working on a Neo Geo core for the MiSTer.
Okay.
Which is like,
that's pretty cool.
That's super cool.
To answer Camaristico's question, no, there is not a Genesis, or Genesis isn't this week because Eric isn't feeling great, and so
yeah,
we don't want to put him through it.
Yeah, my voice is not up to going for speaking a lot for half an hour.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I'm gonna check out Double Dragon, see how this works out.
What a surprise.
How many different versions of Double Dragon can this thing run?
Almost all of them, I think.
How many you got?
Yeah, right. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Greetings to Code Tapper.
What's up, Code Tapper?
That's what the splash screen at the beginning said. Yeah.
A lot of these are
old wares.
Cracked games.
Yeah,
Exactly. I remember that shit.
My favorite thing about seeing old PC games of whatever sort being emulated is all the weird boot up screens that they have from all the people that hacked them into.
Right.
You know, people have talked. I've seen people talk about the weird controls on Amigas because they only had one button, and man, this is really weird. This game controls really weird. Like, just pushing the button static does a punch. Holding left or right and pressing the button does a kick. Holding up in the button does a jump. And holding down on the button does a headbutt, I think it looks like.
That sounds awful.
It's not optimal.
Super awful.
It's not great.
Camaristico says feel better. Rhino Nar says he's been playing a lot of Duke Nukem 3D. Do you like the 20th anniversary World Tour port?
Yeah, I've heard that's like sort of the definitive edition of that game.
One would hope.
Yeah, you would.
Why spend all the time to port it and then
I don't think
fuck it up?
I don't think I can stand spending any time with Duke Nukem these days.
It's
I
a
mean,
little.
that's still a pretty good game, and that
No, I
one
mean,
is
Duke,
You just mean from attitudinally speaking.
Duke Nukem. You know what I mean?
Right.
as a character.
Like Duke.
The
But Duke was self-aware in 3D at least.
the satire is not working for you at this point.
Yeah, there's a self-awareness to Duke in Duke 3D that there is not in Duke Nukem Forever, for example. You know, I don't know. I think I could deal with it because that game is actually that the last time I played it was when the 360 version came out. I think I bought that on Xbox Live Arcade, and it was still like I was like, man, just like the level design and the way the weapons work and everything in that game is still really good. Like that game is still a lot of fun. So. Okay, I don't need any more of this in my life.
Look at those.
Sorry to
as
any
a
British people who
diehard-
might be watching, but
As a diehard Double Dragon fan, you are offended.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's not. Great.
You are certainly nonplussed.
I'm nonplussed, yeah.
You are without plus.
I am. Consoles. Let's see here. So yeah, we've got the Bally Astrocade, the Atari 2600, the Atari 5200, the ColecoVision, the Game Boy, and I think that runs Game Boy Color games as well. The Genesis, the NES, the Odyssey 2, the Sega Master System, which also runs Game Gear games, will run from that core as well. The Super NES, the TurboGrafx 16, which will also run Super Graphics games, but will not run CD games yet. But I know somebody's working on that. And the Vectrex.
So only Hue cards.
Only Hue cards, yeah. So, I don't know. I actually don't think I've checked out the NES core at all, so let's do that. Let's see what that... Oh, and it automatically loads up Super Mario Brothers, apparently. That's
Because why would you not?
Right. So we can load NES games, or we can load Famicom Disk System games here. And oh yeah, you can. So if you want to change the aspect ratio, you can. I wouldn't. You can hide the overscan area, which makes the picture a little bigger, which is cool. You can change the various. These are all the. I think the. Most of these are the palettes from that. Was it Firebrand X did for the. That were on the. That are in the Kevtris mod, the HDMI mod that I have in my actual NES. Let's see here. There are versus arcade games. Playtries 10 will run through this, I believe, as well. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Let's play a Styanax. Why not? Why not?
I mean, I could probably give you a couple of reasons.
That's fair.
I mean, there's worse stuff you could play too.
Smoke Monster says that is a nice setup. You know, it's almost like someone did a lot of work on this stuff to make it a nice setup. I don't know who that could have been.
Weird.
There's some guy named Mike. I think he lives in Brazil, I guess. I don't know.
Or maybe it's just waxed.
Let's see here. Alright, I don't need that. I don't need your life story, Styanax. That's not what I came here for. I came here to hit people in the face with an axe. Should have picked a game with less story. So yeah, I mean, I'm not running this side by side with a real NES, and I know that in some games that I've played on other cores, like I know the Genesis, I played Dynamite Heady on the Genesis, and I know that there were some graphical effects things that were not quite correct to original hardware. I don't know if that's the case with NES games, or if there are. I'm sure there are some. I probably should have played Castlevania 3 so I could check out how the soundtrack emulation sounds, but You know, I mean, this is one of those things where, you know, you're less than $200 all in on making one of these, and if you want something that is really accurate, you know, I've paid a lot of money to get an NES that will output an HDMI, and you can get this thing. To me, this is the sweet spot between accuracy and affordability. You know, really, that's really the draw. And for me, portability, like I took this thing back to Wisconsin with me when I went home for the holidays, and you know, played some games at my parents' house with it, because that's easier than loading my NES and my Sega CD and my whatever.
Yeah, one-stop shopping.
Yeah.
Or your PC.
Yeah, or or my actual PC. Even when I had a laptop, this thing is still easier to take than a laptop. But now I have a desktop, so it's like, forget that, you know. So that's the draw for me. And a lot of people say, oh, Raspberry Pi, blah blah blah. But I also honestly, like, I've seen people set up Raspberry Pis, and it's actually more complicated than like getting RetroArch to work. And this is really like, you just get the cores from the GitHub, and you dump your own ROMs like the ethical good person that you are, and then you put them on there, and that's really it. You just, like, the core just kind of runs.
No.
It's breaking up for me, at least.
Yeah, I think he was saying something about the availability of ROM software. You know, but it's now we hear you.
Now we hear you. Just in time to hear.
Might be somebody. They're supposed to be redoing our electrical box in the basement, so it's like in pieces at the moment. The guy's supposed to be coming back tomorrow to finish it, so that might
yeah.
Might be some kind of weird interference. Although I have it. It's like hooked up with an Ethernet cable. It's a GPU though.
So, you know, this is a much more now there's a lot of tinkering you can do. Like I said, I have these filters and everything, and the filters are, you know, somebody made those, you have to download them separately and all that stuff. But if you don't care about that, like if you literally just want to plug this thing in and play some games on it, it's the easiest thing in the world. Like literally the MiSTer package to like get the OS basically on this thing is one download, and there's instructions on the GitHub that are so easy that I could do it. You know, basically it's a self-extractor. Like, you put an SD card in your computer, which the thing comes with an 8 gig SD card, which isn't enough for if you want a lot of games on it, but like it's enough to get the thing running.
Get you going. Right.
You know, you put that in your computer, you run this package file basically that self-extracts onto the SD card, and then you just download the cores and put your games on it. And no, I'm not going to tell you where to get games. No, don't ask in the chat or in the comments, because I'm not going to tell you. But you know, you know where to get them. You know, and then you go, and that's really it. And again, I've heard with the RetroPie, like getting the RetroArch version for AMD mini processors or whatever run correctly and everything can be a pain. Setting all that stuff up is a pain. This is really, you know.
What do you use for controllers?
So right now I'm using this Street Fighter 4 Xbox 360 USB fight pad.
It's a nice fight pad.
Thank you. I really like it just for ease of use.
Yeah.
I also have, I mean, I built an arcade stick, I did some vast improvements on an arcade stick I bought. I put, you know, Sumitsu buttons and a Sanwa stick and a sort of cheaper arcade stick, and that works just fine. But it's like much more cumbersome for a stream like this, like to go get it out or whatever. But that works. I'm told that PS4 controllers work fine. I haven't tested that myself. I believe the NES or the Switch Pro controller works. I think if you have the right.
You plug them in, or is it Bluetooth? That one.
So I have them plugged in. So if you go to the video that I made about building this thing, which I'll put a thing at the end of this for people who watch the archive of this, I'll put a link in the description or whatever, and a end card on it. But in the description of that video, I have links to all the stuff that I personally used. So there's a MakerSpot USB hub that's a micro USB to regular size USB 4-port USB hub. And it was like $6. I use that.
Nice.
So it only has micro and mini USB
Sure.
on it, and then if you want regular USB, and that's the one that I got because everybody on Smoke Monster's Discord was basically like, "Yep, this is the one that's tested that we all know works." And I was like, "Okay."
Nice. That's yeah. That's what you want.
There are others, I guess.
Do
out
this,
there,
this, and this. Great. That gets me going.
Yep, and really, again, shout out to Smoke Monster and his Discord, because any of the weird problems that I did have when it came to tinkering, like, those folks were incredibly helpful. Again, if you don't want to tinker and you really just want to play, like, the graphics aren't going to look as sharp, maybe, but with the default filters and that kind of, you're not going to have as much customization, but if you just want to play games, like, it will definitely do that. So, you know, and there's an.
Are you forced to stand there where that rock drops down, or are you just doing that?
No, I just keep forgetting that the rock drops down at that point.
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with this Metroid game. What is this?
This is Astyanax.
This is Castlevania -1.
Yeah. Except I think this game came out after at least the first two Castlevanias. This is sort of it was developed by the same people who did Legendary Axe and Legendary Axe 2 on the TurboGrafx, and it really plays very similarly to that. It was published by Jalico on the NES. So.
Jalico.
Yeah. So, yeah, skulls. Skulls are cool. Talking skulls.
Unless you're Chinese.
Then skulls aren't cool.
They took the skulls out of.
They take all the skeletons and such out of games that get published over there because there's
Oh, really?
Cultural issues with representing those things.
People were very mad that they took the skulls out of Rainbow.
Yes, they were incredibly mad that skeletons were removed from a game that they're not going to be able to play because it's published in a different region.
No, I think they.
They took them out in all versions.
Yeah, they took them out.
Oh, whatever.
Which game is this that we're talking about?
Rainbow Six Siege.
Was that game replete with
I thought
skeletons
people was
before?
bitching about Diablo because that happened.
It had like skull imagery, like like sprays and things.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Character emblems and things like that. But it's fine. They put them back. You know what they're gonna do? Next time they make one of these games, there'll be no skulls.
Right. They just won't start with any, so then nobody can complain they took them
Skullify
out.
it from the start.
But Mike,
Right.
I want your skull.
They're just in the pocket of Big Skull.
I need
Well,
your skull.
You're gonna have to wait. I'm using it.
Well, Mike, you know that I hack the heads off people and put them on my wall.
Okay.
Like a predator.
That a fact.
Something
no,
like that.
it's not a fact. It's a song lyric.
None of these things are
none of these
facts.
things are true. So yeah, I don't know. This thing is. This is a nice opportunity for me to spend some time with this thing because I hadn't really had a good chance to test it since I got the RAM board.
Red.
Because you need an external RAM board in order to play some of the cores. It's weird. The Genesis and TurboGrafx ones work without the RAM board, but the NES and I think Game Boy and Super NES do not work unless you have the RAM board.
Which I'm guessing is not actually related to how much RAM those consoles use.
It's not. It's related to how the core stores things in memory, apparently. And like the way the core was designed is how someone sort of explained it to me, but I am very much a layperson, so if I'm wrong, like if Raisha's watching this and I'm wrong, please correct me, but nicely.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who did a lot of the work and explained some of this stuff to me, so... but, okay, I think this is enough Astyanax for now. It's,
For one lifetime.
It's enough for anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to check out... what was I going to check out? I was going to check out Castlevania, right? The Castlevania 3 to see if how it sounds. Nope. Akumajo Densetsu.
I know Nar asks if this game is rare. If he means Astyanax, I don't believe so.
I have no idea. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't believe it is. No.
I think it may just be more of a. There's not nostalgia for it because it's not that great,
Yeah.
so you don't hear about it.
Right. Both. Do I need to load? This is weird. Do I need to load a BIOS? That seems strange. I shouldn't have to do that, but. No, I can load the Famicom. Okay, that's weird. I actually want to play a Famicom Disk System game.
Sorry, I missed the beginning of the stream. But how many cores do you have loaded on this thing right now?
I went through them, but I mean a bunch. A shitload.
A lot, many.
Pretty much just about anything that plays video games up through the Super Nintendo Genesis era.
Yeah,
Dang.
Basically.
pretty much. Yeah.
Like it's mostly the most exciting part is definitely like the old weird PC stuff. Your
The weird microcomputers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Your ZX Spectrums, your Amigas, things like that.
So I'm trying to figure out if it's.
Please set discard.
I wonder if I need to do something to get it to play. Don't like that. Resolution not supported. That doesn't make any sense. That's weird. Okay, we're gonna have to do a little bit of a reset here then. Which the way you reset this is you just unplug it from the power supply, plug it back in. There are power supplies you can get that have like a kill switch on them, so you can just flip a switch, but that's basically doing the same thing, just cutting the power. Smoke Monster says, are you on the latest NES core? I ran the script to update like a week ago, so unless there's a new version of it, I should be. But I'm glad you're here, Smoke Monster. Let's see, this is the December 31st, 2018 NES core, so unless there's been one since then.
Load FTS games, you load the BIOS first and then go back and load the FTS.
Yeah, but I'm trying to load a cartridge.
Not an FTS thing. Yeah, that's the...
Okay, so first things first, let's get that off the screen, because Nintendo apparently doesn't like it when you use less than savory means of loading their games they published.
He said, yeah, that's the latest.
Yeah, so I don't know why Japanese games aren't working. That seems weird. Well, let's see if regular Castlevania, if NES, okay, so NES Castlevania works.
That's one of the better music, anyways.
NES Castlevania 3 works. So, why? And either the sound is very quiet or I lost audio, which is weird. That's weird. Astyanax was playing music, wasn't it?
I don't know, I have muted.
I don't know. I haven't muted because we were in Discord, so it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, true. Well, anyways, again, that's a capture card thing, not a function of the hardware itself. It's capture card related. But
Link.
So this is working. So I know that on the Genesis, core, you have to change the your scripts and run vsync match display if you lose sync on any other games. Okay, that's good to know. You had to change the region on some of the other cores, but I don't know. Like, let's see if Kid Dracula works. I wonder if it's just Castlevania 3, because that game, of course, is like notoriously weird. So maybe Japanese Castlevania 3 just doesn't work on this, because again, compatibility is not like exactly super perfect, from what I can tell. So But okay, so we've given this a test run. Let's check out.
Smoke Monster says maybe go into your scripts and run vsync match display if you lose any sync on any other games.
Yeah, I should just do that actually in general. So let's. Oops, that's not right. Oh, okay.
Interactive text port.
Right. Ah. Okay. Again, let's not show Nintendo owned properties right away on the on this guy. Let's see here. Do that auto. We can use a mouse in the SNES core. That sounds good. Multi-tap is disabled, but we can do that. You do have to set the filters by core, which is, you know, that's whatever, I guess. But then once you save it, then it's taken care of. And you can remap the keys, you know, by left, down, up, A, B, X, Y, R. Select. Start. What was I going to do? Oh, I was thinking about running that script, but I'm not going to worry about it right now, actually, because you have to actually quit all the way out. So, let's see here. MiSTer Special Chip Games. Let's see how this works. Let's see if these are SDD1. Let's see if it'll do it. Let's see if it'll run Street Fighter Alpha 2.
So do you know of any good, like, have these things been tested to work with any wireless controllers, or are you using wired USB?
I'm using wired USB. I don't remember if this thing has Bluetooth built in or not. I feel like
I would assume not built in, but could you use a USB Bluetooth dongle?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I wouldn't see why not.
I can't see why not. Yeah.
Well, you need a driver for it, right?
Right, you need a driver for it. But so Smoke Monster's in the chat. He should be able to answer that. He's the expert, I think. Hopefully, if he's still watching, he can answer your question, Mike. But I would imagine so. And I'm not sure if Bluetooth might be built into this thing. Actually, I don't remember. And the box is in my closet, so I can't go look. But you know, this thing is running Street Fighter Alpha 2, which is more than can be said for a Super EverDrive. Obviously, the SD2 SNES, which is sort of a more advanced EverDrive type device for the Super Nintendo, will run this now. This is one of the last add-on chips to get supported, but it seems like it's working all right here in the MiSTer. I should remap my buttons so that they're Street Fighter layout, because I can do that.
Mr. B says no Bluetooth out of box.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. B.
Thanks.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's no reason I can think of, Mike, why... I mean, I was using a Bluetooth keyboard with a USB dongle for a minute when I first got it, before I remembered that my PC came with a cabled keyboard that I wasn't using. So,
Okay, so that worked all right.
That worked fine, yeah. It wasn't like...
You can get a Bluetooth dongle for like $8, right?
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Sounds about right. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, it's the kind of thing where it's like, you know, if this is something that you're into and there's a value proposition for you, for me, a lot of it was those PCs, the Amiga, the Commodore 64, the ZX Spectrum, and then another part of it was some of the weirder consoles, like the 26. I have 3 Atari 2600s, but you know how hard it is to get those things to run on a new TV.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet.
They also look like garbage.
Yeah, and they look like trash. So the Atari 5200, the Coleco. Like, I don't have a ColecoVision.
Finally, open up that copy of Blueprint I got sitting around.
And there you go. Like I really want a Vectrex at some point, but like having Vectrex support is totally awesome. I love that. You know, so that was really like this stuff. Like most of what I've been showing off on the stream is just kind of gravy, because like I have a Super NT. I have an NES with the Kevtris HDMI mod. Like I have a Genesis and I have a PC Engine with an EverDrive and all that stuff. So that stuff is just like, that's convenient. But for me, the real value proposition was, yeah, in those old computer formats and older consoles, that it's just like, it's really nice to have access to that stuff in an easy way.
Mr. says, by the way, you can only run scripts from the boot menu before loading a core.
Yeah, I know that, and I've spaced on it for some reason. So I was like, oh, where's the thing? But yeah, you have to have the main menu to run a script. So I'll run the vsync script later. I'm not going to stress about it now. So nobody's tuning into the stream to watch me run the vsync script. So
What?
yeah, crazy, right?
I am.
I do know on one, I'm trying to remember what core it was. I think it was the Amiga core. I had to change the vsync. I had to manually adjust the vsync because that was causing a problem with it not displaying correctly. Mr. B says, okay, smiley face. I'm glad it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, USA. I don't know if Mr. B's actually from the USA. That might...
I think he's just
but I just watched
acknowledging that you
Bloodsport
knew what
last
you were doing.
week, and so he gets an okay USA.
Bloodsport. I haven't watched that in a long time. I should watch it.
That's why I hadn't watched it in a long time. That's why I watched it.
Dude, we did an action cast about that, didn't we?
We did do an act. That was one of the earlier episodes too.
Was it?
Yeah. We definitely did an action cast on that.
Maybe I was. Maybe I thankfully. I don't know.
Blocked your memories of the action cast. Can't believe we did 100 of those. 100 of those.
It's a lot.
So yeah, I don't know. Is there anything anybody wants to see? Any of the cores anybody wants to check out? See how they look? See how they play? Any games that anybody wants me to check out that aren't published by Nintendo? Because again, apparently they don't like that. I don't know if they'll notice our tiny channel, but you know.
They'll notice. Mario is everywhere.
Yeah. They don't like you to show off that you're using any sort of illicit means to play their games. They frown on that, apparently. Sorry?
Just about Nintendo. I think I might be done buying Nintendo things. I've said that in the past, but
Let's say
You mean retro Nintendo things?
just any Nintendo anything.
What do you actually have for the Atari 800?
You play Circus Atari.
Oh boy. All right. Is there an Atari 800 version of Circus Atari?
I have no idea. Why don't even? What do you? Why don't? I guess you could use the analog stick for paddle controls or something. But
So there is
play Turmoil.
I can.
somebody is working on a board called the
can have
LL Cool Joy,
Okay, I like it already.
and it's going to have like the DIN 9. Is that what it? Kurt, help me out here. The one it's the Atari and Genesis and like classic PC controller joystick type port.
God, I have. Oh, I see what you're saying.
I think it's called a DIN 9 or something like that.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, something like that.
And then the Neo Geo port.
Rhino Nar actually says he would like to see. They would like to see American Tail on Super Nintendo.
Oh boy. Okay.
So that's probably more interesting than any random Atari 800 thing I might see.
I
No,
don't
but
even
seriously.
know.
Mostly, I'm looking to see if you have a specific game that I've never been able to find any information about since I originally played it on someone's Atari 800.
Yeah. Let's see here. D9 is Mr. B says
D9. Yeah, there you go.
So D9, and then I think D12 is the Neo Geo controller port, and there's a lot of adapters.
Is the M&M rap group.
Right. Yeah. Dirty Dozen. And then I think there's a bunch of ports in there, but I think with that you'd be able to use the Atari paddle controllers because they use the D9 and that kind of thing. So that thing is.
You just need to get an adapter so that you can use a Nedgecon.
Yeah.
Use that as your paddle controller.
Right.
Even though it doesn't spin all the way around.
It doesn't. You twist it.
Yep. Right.
I don't have a Negicon. There's also the JogCon, which has like a little steering wheel in there.
Actually, that's true. The JogCon would work because it does go all the way around.
Yeah.
I have both of those. I played a shitload of Wipeout XL with my Nedgecon.
Nice. I feel like Rhino Nar was trolling me
It's possible.
by asking me to play this. Don't make me wish I was playing Circus Atari.
This is his revenge for us not answering his question about whether we watched The People versus O.J. Simpson.
All right, well, I'll answer and say no. The reason I didn't answer is because the answer is no. So, I saw how horrifying John Travolta looked in that freaky Robert Shapiro makeup, and that was the end for me.
I did watch it. I thought it was pretty decent. Not including the horrifying makeup.
Right. Horrifying makeup is apparently John Travolta's brand these days, though, because he's.
Yeah.
I heard he put some on pretty fierce for Gotti.
For Gotti, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's the. It all started with Battlefield Earth, right?
Yeah. Man, you know what John Travolta movie I hadn't seen until like fairly recently, by which I mean in the last probably 2 years, was Blowout. That's a really good movie, yeah.
Really? I'm shocked. That is a really good movie. Mr. B asked, do you know how to change the boot up ROM for the cores to stop it booting into Nintendo games?
No, I don't, Mr. B, but I would love for you to tell me.
Hot strats from Mr. B on how to run a Mister better.
Yeah.
Not a Mister, better.
Also, Joe, I hear that if you network two of those things in parallel, they can take your broken wings and learn to fly again.
Yeah, nice.
That's at least the second Mr. joke that's been made on this stream tonight. So.
Appropriate. Now they ask for Inspector Gadget.
I'm sure he's trolling. I don't know, are you trolling me, man? Inspector Gadget, come on. Now, Mr. B's gonna tell me how to not have this thing load.
I like he says, okay, I will tell you instead of just saying how.
Instead of just telling me. I'll tell you. Tell me.
I will tell you, but not right now. Tune in next time. Mr. B's top tips.
Hudson Soft. This game could be good then. It could not be. Hudson Soft, I think, is also responsible for like China Warrior on the PC Engine. So.
Yeah.
But the sprites are so big.
They are so big. It's weird that Penny's kidnapped, because usually Penny's the one doing it. You should actually play as Penny in this game, because she's the one who did all the work.
She's the one who's competent.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like a cheat code. She's like the Maria in Symphony, Rondo Blood.
Yeah. Oh no. I can't skip this. So I can have a robot punch and a hat robot punch. Inside your SNES ROM folder, there's a file called boot.rom. Just replace it with any ROM and name it to boot.rom. Okay. Cool.
Boom. Done and done.
Thank you, Mr. B. Much appreciated. Okay, so that's not where I'm supposed to go. I'm not supposed to go down that pit. So, okay, did those things. I went in the pit again. So, why can't I just, like, go gadget legs? That seems like, you know, a thing that Inspector Gadget would do.
Go gadget legs up to here, know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can go gadget copter, but it only, like, slows my descent, doesn't it? Whoa, whoa! That was bad. This game is not good. You know what? Eric's not well, and we're
Yeah,
the stream up.
this can't be
We're up
helping.
at 11 anyway.
I'm gonna play some Circus Atari
Nice.
because let's see if there's a 5200 version of Circus Atari. Let's see here. There's not, so we will instead have to go with the 2600 version, I guess. But this will give us a chance to check out the okay. It's a bunch of random. It's weird. It's really weird. What's going on here? So there's like a handful of cartridges. Atari 2600. That's weird. This is like a handful of games. I thought the thing that I had acquired had more, let's say. Huh. That's really weird. Okay. I guess I'm not going to play Circus Atari. Because I don't seem to have it loaded onto this SD card. So let's load up the...
Smoke Monster says, okay, so 2600 is very funky.
Okay, tell
What
me
a
about
shock.
it. Tell me about it, Smoke.
Tell me more, tell me more.
While he does that, I'm going to check out the Atari 800.
Broken when using anything but Casino as your boot ROM.
That's weird.
That is super weird.
Yeah. What I actually want to do here is maybe mount a hard drive instead.
Sword's just pushed a ton of fixes the other day, but it's still not in great shape yet.
Yeah, I'm not having a lot of luck with this.
Nick Infante 92 says, "Hey Joe."
What's up? So I don't know which of these things I want to load for the Atari 800 either. Like I can mount this drive, but it seems Smoke Monsters. I've never actually used this core myself. Okay, well, Atari 800. What do we got? I want to end this on something that works. So let's do one that I know works and has sound support. Let's do
Play a Genesis game.
the Genesis game, exactly.
What does Game Boy stuff look like?
Oh, okay. New Game Boy.
How about like you have Mario Land 2 on that thing? Give me Game Boy stuff on there.
Yeah. Let's see.
Wario Land.
You have the option to do like fake coloring in Game Boy games, like you can on the Super Game Boy.
Just
So
there's
there-
Game Boy Color support.
there is
so
a
if you look
direct-
or something like that.
Yeah, there's a directory for Game Boy, Super Game Boy. Like, let's do Donkey Kong. And just see if it does the... No, I don't think it does the... Yeah, it doesn't do Super Game Boy stuff. But let's check out a Game Boy Color or something. Let's see here. Let's do Konami GB Collection 1 on the Game Boy Color. Left, down, up, A, B. Select, start.
Yeah, Smoke Monster says no Super Game Boy, but Game Boy Color mode might work on it. Mr. B says try changing system to Game Boy Color from the core menu.
Yes, there we go. Game Boy Color. Yep. Reset that. There we go.
It's a different thing.
It is a different thing. There we go. Game Boy Color. So yeah, it does Game Boy and Game Boy Color stuff.
Huh.
No sound with the capture card on this one, but that's fine. So yeah, again, this is a pretty fun thing. I'll probably do more of this. Man, this game is bad. Actually, this is running slow. I feel like this is running slow even by the admittedly lax standards of this game, but I'm not certain because this game is so slow.
I have no idea, man. I told you to play Mario Land 2 or Wario Land, so.
You did, but as I said, Nintendo can get uptight about people playing their games via
Non-official methods.
Even though, like, I own both of those games, like on actual Game Boy carts, if I load them up here, apparently they have a problem with that.
I'd feel more like Nintendo had some kind of a justification for that stuff if those games were available anywhere for purchase, where people could give Nintendo money for them.
Both of them are on the 3DS Virtual Console, aren't they?
Are they?
I think so.
Maybe they are.
This looks painfully slow. This can't be
Wow.
this game.
Wow. This is Molassesvania.
I mean, it actually is though, because it's a super early Game Boy game, and it's kind of meant to not have the screen blur affect it. Again, I don't remember if this is too slow or not, and I don't have things set up to actually compare right this moment, so I don't know. But I know this is one of the newer cores, and I think Smoke Monster can vouch for that. Like, this is one of the more recent cores, so it may not run like perfectly.
The updates on the clock at the top are kind of funky.
Yeah, I was noticing that. The clock's kind of glitching out.
So that may have maybe pointers to.
Yeah, I think it's because this is one of the newer cores, and
Yeah, exactly.
all the kinks haven't been ironed out yet. So, but yeah, that's MiSTer.
It's really cool.
I think it's really cool.
Like I said, the MSX Amiga, that's the stuff that's most interesting about that for sure.
Yeah, I didn't check out the MSX stuff at all. I should have played some like Konami shooters on the MSX. But there will be another time.
Another stream, yeah.
Yeah, the next time we don't know what we're streaming, I'll just be like, oh, we'll just pull out the MiSTer again. So, yeah, I don't know. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks Smokes Monster and MiSTer-y for the
for the hot tech support in the chat.
Yep, help and comments and so on.
Oh no! Oop, thought I was gonna eat it on that one. So yeah, and we'll be back next week with hopefully the next installment of our Christmas gift exchange. Do we have 2 games left in that deal?
I think it's 3.
Or 3. Okay.
Coffee still has to go.
Yep.
So
Me, Coffee, and Eric.
And February 2nd is going to be our Extra Life Marathon, so make sure
Dun dun dun.
Exciting times.
that. If you want to contribute, you can if you go to onthestick.com, it will redirect you to.
I don't think the page is up anymore because they reset it at the end of the year.
No, okay, well,
So I have to re-sign up because it'll technically be for 2019 since technically 2019.
Right on our thing. So thanks you for the bad SNES games.
You're welcome.
Which MiSTer-y says you're welcome.
I think he was saying you're welcome to our thanks for the tech support.
I liked the comment, the
yes.
overlap there.
Yeah. So
Snarcast Production says, damn, which I got on earlier. This will be archived so you can watch stuff.
You can go back to the beginning and watch the
And
whole thing.
as he noted earlier, we'll do more MiSTer-y things later.
Yes, and
No pun intended.
And I think that's going to do it. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in. And if you're watching this on the archive, thanks for checking out the channel. There's another video that I'm going to put a thing about how I built this and all the parts I used and all that good stuff. So yeah, and again, shout outs to Smoke Monster and MiSTer-y, and we'll talk to you guys next week, if not before, because who knows, sometimes we just randomly stream stuff. So good night.
Bye.
Bye.